Hello and welcome back to the On The Slab Horror Show, the show that we bring to you each and every Friday night. Why do we do this on a Friday night? Because Friday night is horror night. Absolutely, every single night can be horror night, but Friday night for us has a real specific memory. Growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, on Channel 4 at 10 p.m., just after the watershed, we used to get all the classic horrors as a freebie. So you could have rented out 10 of them, but you get your free one on the free to air TV. It was awesome. So we
Boom.
put this show out at 10 p.m. on a Friday night every week, just as a little token to that.
Awesome.
But tonight we are joined by a director and a cameraman, which he likes to be known. But you will know him as the director of the 2001 music smash horror Studio 666 and director of one of my favorite franchises in Hatchet 3. This is Mr. Bj Mcdonnell. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited. So, yeah,
Thanks
let's
for
rock and roll,
taking the
talk
time out
some
of your day
horror.
too. Come on.
Of course. I like how you said the 90s and the 2000s for you because it makes me go, oh, damn it, I'm from the 80s.
Yeah, I was born in the end of 1990, so.
Oh, there you go. See, no, I'm 1975, so that should tell you how far back my horror history goes. I grew up in the 80s, so it's
Yeah,
yeah.
to be fair now, I have quite a good pedigree. We have a good pedigree on this show. We have a little section on this show where we went back as far as the 1920s and
Oh,
picked
wow.
out sort of like five from the 1920s to watch, five from the 30s, 40s, 50s. Ultimately, when we got to the 70s, we had to change it to 10 because you can't just pick five.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
Nice.
yeah, no, yeah. So the lads are a bit older than me as well that are normally here, but they're in work and otherwise, I think one of them's in band practice at the minute.
Well,
Um,
at least they got something going on. We're stuck over here with a bunch of strikes happening, so we're all kind of just we're
that's
in
it.
limbo right now. Yeah,
That's
we're
it's unfortunate, but that's a topic for a different day, isn't it? It's one
oh
I don't
god,
particularly want to get involved in.
huge topic. Yeah, oh my god. So we're all feeling the hardships of what's going on because not only is it affecting the writers, with them trying to get with everything they need, the actors also, but everybody that works as a director, crew people, the grips. I mean, it takes a lot of people to make movies, and we are all affected by this. So it's a lot of us are just going, okay, let's make a deal, guys. Come on, we're ready to go. I mean, that's
sit let's sit at the table and see what happens.
figure it out. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
this man needs to see more new movies.
right. What's funny because during this strike, I've actually watched more movies than I ever have because usually I'm just working and I'm blown up by the time I get home. But half the time I'm usually like, playing video games. That's my thing. Like, like my Steam Deck, and I take that with me on location. I play games all the time, and I've actually since the strikes, I worked all the way up to the SAG strike. I was lucky, and I got to catch up with some movies that I didn't get to see like normally or haven't sat down to watch. So it's been nice for that, but it's not good for the wallet. I tell you that much. Bills don't
all,
stop. That's the horror film
all,
in itself.
all horror films, I hope.
Yeah. I mean, I caught up with a lot of stuff. I finally watched Nope, and I haven't seen that in a while. And I wanted to see that, and I saw Talk to Me, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really
Haven't
cool
got to
idea.
that one yet.
It's really good.
Haven't got to that
I
one.
I enjoyed it a lot because I thought it was just a cool original idea.
As for Nope, that can go in the bin.
I enjoyed. I mean, and people might want to kill me for this, but I wasn't a huge fan of Get Out. I felt like it was predictable and to me, and I
Get you.
saw every. I did. I felt like it was really predictable, and I mean, it was made well, fine, but like it didn't do like what everybody was like. It was amazing for me. I was like, I don't know. I felt like I saw the bad guys. I didn't feel like a real connection with the two main characters, and I was like, they're just not likable. I don't know. It didn't do it for me. It did it for everybody else, and Us I wasn't a fan of. But what I did like about Nope was I felt like it was finally a standalone movie, and it had a really good intensity to it. I wasn't excited about the reveal of what it was at the end. I was like, it just that was kind of a bummer, but I really enjoyed the intensity of it and the creativity of it and what it really amounted to. And even the fact that, and it just sounds so stupid, but I love this. There's one shot in that movie, and I love it because he straight up stole it from Akira. And it was the shot with the girl on the motorcycle, and she just does a power slide. And I remember that being in the Japanimation Akira movie, and I was like, yes. I don't know why, but that always, like, I thought that was such a cool, like, steal of a shot. So I enjoyed Nope. I thought it was cool. It was inventive.
As the fans or as any of the people that listen to the show know, my take on Jordan Peele,
Oh,
I cannot stand any of his movies. Not one.
oh.
Get
I
Out
think
was
good filmmaker.
2 hours of dribble.
Yeah.
Dribble.
Us didn't do anything for me, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm
I
trying to see.
liked the principle of what he tried to do with that, but it just didn't go for me. And Nope can just get in the bin. I thought it was another 2 hours of dribble. Like, I watched Get Out on the plane on my honeymoon, and I wanted to walk off the plane.
Oh
Oh, it was
man,
awful.
I, I didn't feel the hype, and I was really excited about it, but I just felt like I had every twist and turn coming. And for me, if I'm going to go see a horror film, I want to be excited, like especially if someone's trying to take it in a serious tone, then I feel like you need to really amp up the scares. If it's silly, whatever, but if it's like a serious like tone, you need to really I need to be affected by it. And I just was like, that's the bad guy. She's not a good person. The family's bad. This is that, and you got to want to love that main character. And I just didn't think he did nothing for me. I was like, okay, whatever.
I like Daniel Kaluuya now. I will say I think he's a very good actor, but it just wasn't for me. As the same, like even the new Candyman. I know Nia DaCosta directed it, but that had Jordan Peele's fingerprints all over it.
I
And
still
I was
haven't
like,
seen.
no.
I haven't seen that one yet either, and I need to watch that because a bunch of my horror buddies are always like, "Have you seen Candyman yet?" And I was like, "I haven't seen it yet," and because I love the original, I love
Original's
Candyman.
brilliant.
So good. It's creepy. It has that real vibe because they went down, and shot in the real areas, and you can tell it's dark and gritty and rough, and that's what makes that scary.
Yeah, I mean, like, and Tony Todd's voice for it was just off the chart. Like, I always maintain he probably has, now at this minute in time, has probably the best voice in horror. I know Robert Englund had Freddy, and he was probably the best character.
Yeah.
But I think Tony Todd's standalone voice is just ridiculous.
Oh, he's got a killer voice.
Obviously,
just like when he's just talking normally, it's that voice. Worked with him a bunch, and he just talks, and you're like, oh yeah, it's Candyman, and it's like, yeah, there he is.
I mean, like, I know, you have Hatchet 3, but like he's the voodoo priest in Hatchet 1. And like the witch.
I met him on Hatchet 1.
Oh, you met him on Hatchet 1, did you?
Yeah, I met him on Hatchet 1, and then we did Hatchet 2, and some other things I've worked on he's been in. He's just a cool dude.
Yeah.
And he's
just awesome.
Yeah, a good guy too.
And like there's a funny story there. So the new season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Me and my other half were watching that, and she was sitting there, and when she goes down into the prison and she meets Robert for the first time, and you don't see him but you can hear him laughing, because I didn't watch anything in the build up to it, so I didn't know he was in it, and I was sitting there and I was like, what the fuck? And she's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I know who that is before he goes down there. And she's like, what you mean?
Yeah.
I was like, that's Robert. I was like, that's Robert Englund. How do you know? Because his laugh. I says, it's just the Freddy laugh all over. But like,
the Freddy
you can
laugh,
hear
man.
it. Yeah. Even when Tony was in Final Destination as well, you can hear it.
Oh yeah, Freddy was my favorite of the characters back in the day. Like people loved Michael Myers, and people loved Jason Voorhees. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's awesome. He was my favorite character, like, because he had like some funny things he'd say and do weird inventive stuff. I just really liked what the Freddy character had. I also thought it was scary that you can't fall asleep, and that's dreadful because I'm tired all the time. It's like all I want to do is
It's
go to sleep.
adult life, isn't it?
I'm like, I want to go to bed, but I can't go to bed because I got this guy who wants to kill me in my dreams. And so, yeah,
I
that's horrifying.
I always maintain that Freddy was the slasher that saved slasher movies
It's awesome. Yeah,
because it was so different.
yeah, totally different and really inventive. And he's not like Michael Myers is just walking down the street and like he always catches up somehow. And Jason Voorhees is fun, and I enjoy those movies. Don't get me wrong, but Freddy had pizzazz to him. He had something. He had something going on there. He had a plot and a plan when it came down to his kills, and he victims who would affect them, and it was just cool.
See what I mean when I was talking to you off screen, saying that this conversation's just go anywhere from the start. No, normally we kind of start off with some of your projects, and as I mentioned in the intro, you were the director of the smash hit Studio 666, obviously the Foo Fighters horror movie that came out the back end of 2021.
Yeah,
Enlighten us on a little bit on that.
it was awesome. It all. To be honest, I feel like that movie kind of started where my buddy Jim Rhoda, who was in a band called Fireball Ministry. Your band buddies would probably know who that is, like the ones that are on the show you talked about that are missing this. But I've known Jim for a long time and really enjoyed his band. And I wrote and directed a bunch of Slayer music videos, and those, like, a lot of people got like really into those videos and thought they were really cool. And then I got a call from Jim, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come talk to Dave because Dave wants to do this horror film?" And so I went down there. I kind of got his idea of what he wanted to do, and I threw my idea of like what I think it should do, and just pitched him out. Like, this is what should happen, blah blah. And from then on, we took off and made that movie. And it was a lot of fun. But it was based on his script. I added some things to it. And honestly, filming that movie, we had the best time. Everybody, the whole crew and the cast were just laughing the whole time. And it was one of the best experiences. And as a crew guy, for me, when you're directing something, because I'm also a cameraman, so a lot of my peers were with me. A lot of people that I trust that we brought on board to like work with me, because you want to trust your crew, and you want to surround yourself with great people. And the last thing you want to do is have those people turn around and go, "Yeah, BJ's a cool camera guy, but man, he's such a dickhead director. Screw him on that." And so the nice thing for me is, as we walked away from that movie, when we finished up, is a lot of people came up to me and said, "Man, that was like the best time we had on a film set ever. It was just always fun. We never wanted it to stop." So we had a great time, and we just had fun with it.
That's a great testament to have, though, isn't it? That everyone had a good time. The movie done well, because you can hear this. The movie done well, but it was shite on set, or we had a great time on set and the movie fucking tanks.
Yeah, no, we had a blast, and it was just, everybody was laughing. And the thing is, if you let the crew people do their job, and you have all these experienced people around you, it just makes your life better. And it just made me happy to know that people were having such a good time, because we've all, I've been on so many miserable sets where it's just grueling, and you just like, oh God, how many more days do we got to shoot this movie? I just wanted to be over. And when people come up to you and say that, and even Dave was like, he loved doing it, and like the guys were having a blast, and we just had a lot of fun. And that's what the whole movie based. It's not even a scary movie. We just wanted to make a fun movie, like over the top fun movie that was kind of like, I said before, like it's like one of their old music videos that are funny, and like silly, and just like you could go all over the place with it. It was just a blast.
Like I had gotten word of it. Jeez, it must have been a good few months beforehand, after I think the deal was signed for it to be made. I think it came out in Bloody Disgusting or something that I read, that Dave Grohl had a horror movie on the way out, and I was like, the lads would like that, so I sent it to them. Then the hype became real, because obviously then it was a lot closer than people had thought when that came out. And I was like, oh, okay. And I watched it one night, and I was so surprised with it. I was expecting it, now no offense, I was expecting it to be absolute trash. Surely because of not the reviews, but like what the prologue and thing was going with. I was like, so the Foo Fighters are making a movie. I know they're a good band. I'm not a big music person. But I was like, I don't know how they're going to be at acting.
Yeah.
But boy did they do a hell of a job.
Yeah, the main thing is that I wasn't trying to get them to play a character. You know what I mean? Like, and the main thing that worked was just like once they got comfortable, like, and we all got comfortable on set doing the thing. I was just like, do what you guys would normally do. If you guys wouldn't say this line on this script right here, say what you would say, and they would start doing. They would just have a blast with it. They start throbbing, and I'd have to reel them in every now and then to like, okay, guys, we got to stick to the script because we have to make this movie make sense. But we let them riff, and but the fun thing is what you get out of that movie is that you do get to see who they are. They're not playing characters; they're playing themselves, and what you see on film is what you get in real life. And I think that's really great that people can actually feel like that's a part of what really goes on. And like band practices too, like people are in bands, that's the thing. It's like they argue about songs and they get tired of practicing the songs, and it's a whole road like that. So you kind of get to dive into that world, which I really really enjoyed what we did with that film.
Yeah, I've just received a text message off Carl there. I texted him before we started. He has a question for me to ask you, right? He
Okay.
wants to know how you got Kerry King to be in the movie.
So that came from just the fact that I did those Slayer videos. So
Oh, okay.
before All Fighters, I had wrote a pitch because Slayer was doing their album Repentless, and it was going to be coming out, and they were looking for a horror director. And Nuclear Blast Records, they interviewed a bunch of people, and they kept coming in with the same kind of pitch, like, oh, it's going to have the symbolize, and will be quick flashes, blah blah blah. When I went in, I said, hey guys, here's my thing. If we're going to make a Slayer video, let's not just make something safe. Let's make a video that says Slayer. I said, because in all the videos I've seen that Slayer's ever made, it never felt like a true Slayer video. We don't have MTV censorship anymore. We don't have all that. Let's make a video that's gnarly. Let's just go for it. And so I wrote two pitches and I turned them in, and they liked both of them. One was a bit more expensive than what we wouldn't have been able to make it. It was way over the top. But then they settled for, it was like the prison riot video. And from then on, once we made that video, they trusted me, and then we made two more videos that became a storyline. And then, years later, we were like, Slayer broke up, and we were like, wouldn't it be funny? Me and Dave were talking. We're like, wouldn't it be funny if now that Kerry King is just kind of sitting around, let's make him the roadie in the movie. Let's make him like the head. And so we called Kerry, and Kerry's like, yeah, I'll do that. And because we told him we were also going to put him in special effects and makeup, and he was going to be gnarly, and he loves that stuff. So we were really happy that he jumped on board and wanted to do that. So that's how Kerry King ended up in Studio 666, just because of the past relation that I have with him.
There you go, Carl. There's the answer. Carl's little one, Carl's daughter's name is Kerry King as well.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I know he's got music coming, so I'm itching to hear it.
Nice. But yeah, as I says, not a big music fan. I know of the Foo Fighters. I know a few songs, but it's only if they're pointed out to me. But obviously, I said to you off screen, I know Dave Grohl from being the devil in Tenacious D.
Right.
But I had read a few things about him, and obviously he goes down as people widely regard him as a really nice guy, and he does all these things at concerts and stuff. But he is a big horror fan overall, isn't he?
He loves horror films, yeah, and that's he wanted to make a horror movie, so that's how it all came about. And they were recording the album that they put out right before that movie. They were recording that album in that house, and it just kind of like, the house is a weird place. It was a very strange build, and so that's where his idea came from, and so that's how it all spawned. Just because they were recording there, and it was a strange house.
I mean, it's like was make your own music video crossed with Evil Dead, crossed with other kinds of possession horror, but it was just awesome. It worked very well.
And I feel like
there were some good death scenes too.
What's that?
There's some good death scenes in it too.
Oh, we got gnarly with that. Yeah, we went for it. It's funny we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street, because my goal in that chainsaw sequence was to try to be more bloody than the scene with Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street 1. And I wanted to try to see if we could. never gonna happen. I'll admit it. We didn't beat it, but boy, we tried, and that was the main goal. Like, how much blood do you want? I'm like, I want this room to be trashed. And so we had to go outside and build that whole set out in the parking lot of the house. Like there's this like kind of dirt lot where in the movie you see the Patnam trying to like, hot wire the van. Well, yeah. That lot that you see where all that takes place, we had to take all the cars off there and we built a whole set on that dirt lot because we knew that if we did that practically inside the house, that we would. I mean, they destroyed the house anyways in the end, but we would have completely demolished and destroyed that that much blood into the house. So we had to build a whole set for that. And at the end of the day, I'll never forget walking in my car, going down the hill, and there was a river of blood, of fake blood, just draining down the street of where we shot. It was like pretty hilarious because they're really nice homes down there, like these really like mansions, and celebrities live there in that area. And then there was just this river of blood just cruising down the street, and I was like, yeah, we did that.
Where did you film the movie?
We shot it over in Encino. It was Encino, California.
Nice.
Yep. Like right over the hill. And it was it's in the middle of a neighborhood, and it was this house that had a big lot and big yard, so we were pretty contained where no one could really see what we were doing. So that was a nice thing about it.
As I said, it turned out to be a smash hit, and I know a lot of people over here were edging to see it beforehand, and just loved it. It just went down an absolute tree. I'll just check here while we're talking to see where I actually rated it. So we have a system where we watch new movies, and we'll rate them where we think they belong in the list. So out of the 60 movies or 50 movies I seen last year, I had Studio 666 at 20.
Nice, I'll take it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
rad.
20 is where I rated it for last year. Now obviously I know he's made it in 21, but we didn't get it till 22.
Yeah. No, that's I like when people get it, and I like that people love it. You can't please everybody, as we all say in like this business. You just like we're talking about the Jordan Peele stuff. It's like some people love his stuff, some people didn't like his stuff. I'm just happened to I liked Nope, but I wasn't a big fan of the other ones. What you get, and I think the people that got it, that knew the humor we were going for, I think, and like enjoy that kind of silly humor, love it. I think people that are like looking for a more serious tone horror film are kind of like, what's this? You know what I mean? And they just kind of didn't get it.
I mean, like, for me, there's not many times I'll put on a horror movie and not sit there going, this isn't serious. Like, I'm kind of just gonna go with it. Like, I'll give it a go. Now, there's certain points in certain movies that just throw me and I'm gone and I can't get out of it. So, like, remember I was saying I have a couple of hot takes? So, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah.
You know the dinner scene?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I'm done at that point. When that granddad sucks the blood and comes back to life, I'm gone. I'm out of the movie. I'm done.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. Grandpa doing
it's not even nasty. I don't mind that. It's the fact that he's dead in the attic.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden comes back to life. I'm like, no. Like you've set the movie up as a serious movie. I know it is what it is, what kind of movie it is. But why bring him back to life? Why have to do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
there's that scare factor. He's just sitting up.
Yeah, it's just there. It's just stupid in that movie for me, and I lost from it. I'm like, nope. And I try and watch it, and and I know it's coming, and I'm like,
yeah.
Like up until that point, it's an unreal movie.
Yeah, there's something about those movies back then that I think a lot of people talk about. Like, there's a feel to them, and the movies that I like to do, I always like to make them look a little bit grittier and dirtier. And I feel like that's what made a lot of horror films back in the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, even early 90s. Like, there was something special about them because there was a certain film grain that, like,
grindhouse kind of look
that would make that had a look to it. And if the tone and the story was a certain way and it had that certain look to it, there was something more creepy about the way that is. When I see a movie now and it's like on Netflix or something and it's just clean, like everything's clean and glossy, unless it's meant to be, I'm usually like, oh man, like just kind of just takes me out of it. It's like, I want to, I miss that kind of like the cinematic vibe to it, the dirtiness, the grittiness of the film that kind of goes hand in hand with it. Like save the clean stuff for like sci-fi films and things like that. But like, I don't know, there was a certain look that people just don't get anymore with movies.
Do you know what? One of the last ones I really remember with that dirty, gritty look. Obviously, before we, I know we were talking about Rob Zombie stuff earlier. Apart from his kind of style of doing it, was Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah,
that was proper
I'm gonna say,
gritty and dark.
Yeah, and that's
like,
and that's and that is just kind of like the way I like the way movies look, and that's Sam Raimi. He's look at the Evil Dead movie, genius. And I love his. Evil Dead 2 is still one of my favorite movies ever. Like Evil Dead 2 for me is like the top. I love that one. I liked Evil Dead 1. Evil Dead 2 for me was just like that ruled because it goes so crazy, and I loved it.
For me, Evil Dead 2 is kind of like a remake of Evil Dead 1, just with better budget. Evil Dead 3 is kind of like a comedy, a dark comedy, and it's awesome.
It was really good.
Now, I have a hot take where I think the 2014 or 2013 one is better than the originals.
The Fede Alvarez one?
Yeah.
I love it. Some people are so like,
savage.
well, it didn't have Ash in it. It didn't have this. I'm like, yeah, but it's a remake. It's actually like, if you just take that and make it its own film, but kind of that same storyline, I loved it. I thought it's beautifully shot. That's one thing. It's dirty, but it's gorgeous. Like with all the flares and the way the sun comes through the trees and the way that they make the woods look. And when it goes to night, it's scary and you can feel the dread because of the way
the blood moon, brilliant.
It's killer. And I it's funny because there was a part of me back then when that came out that I wanted to kind of hate it because I loved Evil Dead 2 so much.
It was maybe all over.
I was like, they don't have Bruce Campbell. I don't know about this, And I remember walking out of the theater being like, okay, that kicked ass. I really, really enjoyed that. Yeah.
I went in going, I want to hate this. I want to hate it.
I did too.
I don't know why they done it. And I walked out and I was like, genius. Yeah, and then Evil Dead Rise was fantastic as well. That
do it for me. I will tell you, I wasn't a huge fan of Rise. I loved the one, the Fede Alvarez one, but Rise, I just could not get into that one. It didn't do it for me.
So for me, remember I was saying about like the granddad and the hot take of him pissing me off? The creature in Rise pissed me off. If that wasn't in it, that'd be number one by a mile for me.
Yeah. I just didn't feel like the kids were genuine, because if they saw their mom actually turn like that, it would be a way gnarlier freak out. And also, and this sounds crazy, but I felt like the beginning of it, like I loved the beginning when the girl rises out of the lake. I was like, what is going on? And then it just kind of goes.
I was like, what the fuck is this?
Cool. And I was like, I want that. And then it goes to this building and all that happens. I'm like, what? And then they just kind of like threw that ending in there where it's like, oh yeah, now that's why. And honestly, I would have rather seen the movie at the lake, to be honest. Like that's what I wanted. That's my take on it. I mean, we're all different.
That's what we will get.
I wanted that because I thought that was cool. Like I enjoyed the opening, but then it felt like they made two different movies. Like, hey, we're making this movie. Wait a minute, no, we're not. We got to go make this movie in the building.
It was very Tarantino-esque done, wasn't it? Start at one place, then move it, and then move it back.
Yeah, but that one just didn't.
I liked it. I really liked it. All the effects were brilliant, apart from the creature. It really pissed me off. I knew it was coming as well. I knew it was coming. Because when it flicks to the page of the book, I was like, please don't do it, please don't do it, please don't do it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
But
well, that's the way that one is for me.
Gotta give props to fellow Irishman Lee Cronin there for that one.
Yeah. And he's a good filmmaker. That's the thing. I'm not opposed. Like it's awesome, but I just wasn't.
It's just not for everyone.
For an Evil Dead. Yeah, for an Evil Dead movie, I just was like I wasn't big on it.
I mean, like obviously we touched on Studio 666, so let's jump into one of your other directorial ones in Hatchet 3. Obviously
Oh
an
boy.
established franchise at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously Kane Hodder came in to be Victor Crowley. Adam Green obviously done the first one, and it went down as a huge success. Well, I don't know what it went like in the States, but when it came out here, I thought it was a
Yeah.
big success here,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
giving
It
Kane.
definitely has.
So for me, I thought it gave Kane the platform he deserved to make his own franchise. Obviously, he had been Jason, but so had six other people. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? This was his chance to be the man,
Yeah.
and I thought he nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely, Kane Hodder definitely took that role and ran with it for sure. And he made it his own. It was those movies were really hard. There because there wasn't a lot of money. They were all nights. They were really tough. I think on Hatchet 2, we all caught, like, I didn't catch it, but like everybody caught bird flu because that was like the hot thing going around. So everybody was running the room, and it was brutal. It just because we shot it all on the soundstage, and you can tell because everything it looks fake. Like, Hatchet 2 to me looks really fake. Hatchet 1 we shot in the desert basically. We shot like out in this place out in Santa Clarita, at this place called Sable Ranch, and it's in the desert. And all they did was throw moss in the trees, and we put some gravestones up, and they're like, "It's Louisiana."
It
Um,
looked fucking awesome though.
yeah, for shooting in the desert, I think they did a good job with it, and it was 35 millimeter. We shot that on actual film, which was, that also gives you that look. And Hatchet 2 was shot like with a red camera. It was like, okay, it just looked very digital to me, and I wasn't a big fan of how that one looked. The one that I did, I was like, let's just go down to New Orleans. Let's shoot it for real. Let's get the scope of it all. Let's actually see the swamp. Let's just go shoot in a real swamp. And I had the
Honey Island
smallest,
Swamp.
what's that?
Honey Island Swamp.
We were in Lafitte's. Yeah, there is a Honey Island swamp, but we shot in Lafitte's because what people don't really know is that down in Louisiana, it's actually hard to find solid ground because everything's marshy. So we had to hunt for this like one location where we could build the Crowley house and actually have our set. And it was so hard to actually find just like a solid place to put the camera trucks and the set and all that. It was really tough. But what I like about going down there is that we shot the swamp for the swamp, and we could just allow to see everything. None of it was fake. It was all straight up. That's the swamp. You are in the swamp. So I think for what Hatchet 3 is, I'm happy with the way the scope of it is.
I mean, I like it, but I like those kind of films. Like Wrong Turn is one of my favorite franchises, and obviously the further into the movies they go, they become like that as well. But like I enjoyed them. I think like if you went into that movie waiting to see a very serious slasher movie, there's something wrong. You know what I mean? He's a ghost character that's killing people. What more did you want from it? You know what I mean? It's your own fault if you didn't go in expecting some kind of goofy kind of
Yeah,
moments. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I think a lot of it, like, that's where it sets a lot of the movies apart. Is I think you go in to see these movies for what they are, and kind of like what you're getting into in some of these films. Like, what's your take on the Hills Have Eyes remake?
I prefer the remake than the original.
Me too.
Yeah,
And I like it's actually horrifyingly scary. Like,
yeah.
it's and what I know is, like, living out here in California, it's not too far. We drive, me and my wife, we go on these trips. We'll take, and it's like you get right into the desert and you're in the middle of nowhere. And there's some very trippy people out there in the desert. So being out there, you kind of go, wow, man, like, not the, the nuclear like aspect of it all, but I mean, there's some scary places you can end up out in the middle of the desert. And so that for me,
Big,
when you watch that movie, it's like, ooh, this is gnarly. And that movie was very, like, they went there. They really pushed the envelope for like what they did horror wise, and I thought it was really effective.
big shout out to my boy Michael Bailey Smith. Obviously, he was in that.
But yeah,
Former guest as well.
I,
Um, where did he tell me that was filmed? Out in Morocco, I think it was.
I think, because Maxime
Yeah.
Alexander in the DP Maxime.
Oh, but Michael was telling me, he gave me a quick story on it. He was saying they were moving from one part of the set to the other, and he was in the full gear, and he was
Right?
sitting in a car driving through this little town, and this guy was crossing the road with his sheep and noticed him
Oh yeah,
and legged it.
just like I'm out of here.
Good luck.
Yeah,
But I prefer that than the original one, the Craven one.
too. I
No,
thought it was
the
great.
Craven one's not bad. Michael
Yeah,
Berryman, he's as good as he was for those characters. He just looks out of place in that movie for
yeah.
me.
But that's all.
He doesn't look like the rest of them,
It needed an
but
update. You know,
yeah,
that movie needed
and boy, it got a good one.
a good one. I
And
love.
Vanessa Shaw was brilliant as well as the older sister.
It was
Um,
truly gnarly. I remember walking out of the theater being like, "That was killer."
I
But
went,
that movie,
I went to see that at 13 in the cinema.
oh, oh yeah,
Yeah, I got
pretty
into
cool.
that. I went to see that and Saw in the same year
Oh yeah,
in the cinema. I was like, my mom was like, "How did you even get into these?" And I was like, "Because I know the people that work in the cinema."
they let me right in. Let's check it out.
I've been getting into those kind of films since I was about 12 or 13. Age doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. And it's funny you mentioned that because like when we talked earlier about like we're like the 90s, the 2000s, I'm like the 80s. My parents, I grew up in a household where my parents worked, you know, they both worked big jobs and they would just let me and my sister because HBO was like that was the hot thing right then. Like you got HBO, the movie channel, or whatever. And I remember like that's where you would see all these cool horror films like growing up. And my parents would just be like, all right, we're going to bed or we're going to go see our friends. We're leaving you and your sister here. And me and my sister would put HBO on. And that's how we got exposed to all these like horror films. And where some kids would have freaked out and been like, turn the channel on. Mom's going to kill us. We became like total horror buffs and we would watch these movies. And that's kind of what shaped, to me, that's kind of also what shaped the horror that I like, going back to how I like the old dirty, gritty look to things. And you know the way that those horror films had a vibe to it. I think it's just in how you grow up and the movies that you love growing up. That's what you see.
I think, like, I remember, like, I can say I remember. I know I'd seen the likes of Beetlejuice before, the likes of, I seen Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, Nightmare on Elm Street is the first proper horror film that I can remember seeing. Like, I know Beetlejuice, some people will count it as like kids horror, but like the first legit horror film. Now, my parents always told me growing up, there's only two horror films I was never allowed to watch. Nightmare on Elm Street was one, that went to hell.
Yeah.
And The Exorcist was the other one. And
Oh
I think in the space of 6 months, I'd seen both of them.
yeah.
Yeah. At
Exorcist is
12, 11 or 12, I was when I seen them.
yeah, and it's a true testament to how you stuck through it and actually got movies because it takes a certain person to actually sit through like horror films. I knew a lot of kids that I grew up with that actually couldn't handle it. Like they would freak out. When I was growing up, I had Fangoria posters all plastered over my whole room, like all these pictures of like scanners, like the head blowing up, or the girl, or like the lady in
Deadly.
Alien chest burster. Like I put all those posters up over my room, and I went to a Christian school because my parents put me in a Christian school, and the kids would come over to like hang out with me or spend the night over the weekend, and they'd all go report back to their parents like, "Oh man, BJ's room is so scary. He's got like all these scary posters up, and it made us watch horror films." I'm like, "Yeah, making your kids badass. That's what I'm doing."
Yeah, pussies. But
Yeah.
like those two movies, I was always a huge fan of movies growing up, like always. And the most iconic scene I remember out of that first time I watched Nightmare on Elm Street was, when Freddy's walking down the laneway, and he's like
Oh, no,
that with the arms. I was like, how? I was like, that is magical.
it's so creepy too. Like his voice, and he's calling, and he's like, his arms go out, and the thing sparks, and then when he cuts his fingers off, and it's like you're like, what?
Watch this.
That's this, and you're like watching this, going, what is like when you didn't know what it was? You're like, what is this movie? I have no idea what we're getting into, and that's what was so cool. Going back to
So
Freddy Krueger, so awesome.
I went through that, and I went through The Exorcist. Never bothered me. Never nothing. Didn't think that of it. I remember watching Friday the 13th, the original one.
Yeah,
And the movie was fine. And then you get to that Kevin Bacon scene when he gets the arrow through the neck, and I was like, oh shit.
So gnarly.
Yeah. So now, then for a
Yeah.
while, because I slept in the attic, and I slept on like so it's like an old bunk bed that was cut down, but it had two wooden boards as the base plate. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Oh yeah.
so I'd always be looking under, and I'd be like, no, no one under there.
Yeah.
I was
That
like,
was
but
always me,
that was it.
guys.
The
That was my.
poltergeist.
That was how I felt about Clown from Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist. I was always like, oh god, like that thing. That got me pretty good when I was a kid. I love that movie too. It's so weird.
Yeah, but like that was phenomenal. Obviously, it went on to be a success, and Sean Cunningham now obviously trying to retain the rights to it. So I'm looking forward to see if they actually reboot it properly. I wasn't a big fan of the '09 reboot. I thought Derek Mears was very good.
Yeah, Derek was
But
hard.
I didn't like the whole, oh, now he gets around because he goes through underground tunnels and stuff. I was like, no.
We had a cave.
Huh?
And Voorhees had a bat cave.
Yeah, it was mad, wasn't it?
He was a murderous Batman, and so
Mm.
I'm with you on that. But Derek was born to play that role. I mean, he's just like that was perfect casting for Jason Voorhees.
It had to be him, didn't it?
He's awesome. Yeah, he's great. Like it's like why wouldn't he? And even if they did another one, wouldn't they get him again? Be honest.
He's actually coming over to Manchester now in November for the Love of Horror, the biggest European horror con that we're heading over to. So
You met him?
nope, I've never been to a horror con.
Oh, gotcha. No, he's like one of the nicest guys you're ever gonna meet.
I've heard that off a few guests.
He's a lovely, lovely human. I love that guy. He's great.
Yeah, I think the plan is to meet him, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell him, say, hey, I talked to BJ, and he'll be like, oh.
BJ said you're a dickhead.
And he'd be like, oh, okay.
Sounds about right. If I do get close to him, I'll say it to him and see.
There you go. Yeah.
BJ says you're to give me 200 quid and he'll pay you back when you get there.
I owe Derek a lot, actually. It's funny because he's done a lot of favors for me in the past, and then the first Slayer video we did, we beat him up pretty bad. So I owe him. I owe him a big. He's a good dude.
But yeah, no, he's coming over. There's a few of the others that are going over. Doug Tate's going. Another good guy. He's another really good guy.
Good dude, yeah. Doug Tate's great.
Yeah. I done a great interview with him there a couple of weeks ago. But like, yeah, that I'm just looking so forward to that. John Jarrett's going as well, who played Mick Taylor in Wolf Creek.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
I was just in Australia, like doing a movie over there, and I always thought, yeah. So I was always like thinking about that whole thing.
Was he in it? He's in every other Australian movie.
Was that?
He's in every other Australian movie.
Yes. No, I was doing. I was a camera operator on the remake of The Fall Guy. It's not out yet, and so I was over there, and I always think about those kind of movies, and like I never made it out to the Outback, so I didn't really get a taste of that. We were all shooting in Sydney the whole time, so I didn't get to go out and experience that kind of area or check out the Outback or any of that weirdness. But everybody tells me, they're like, yeah, there's some crazy people out there.
I'd say so. I mean, it's based on a semi-true story anyway, but
it is.
Yeah. Apparently he does be staying in character and all when he's doing conventions.
Oh God.
I was like, I'll take my shots here.
There you go. That's awesome.
But have you any other upcoming projects you'd like to have a quick mention of before we close out?
The only, I mean, there's always upcoming projects, but as a director, you come and you work on these things and you see them go and you just hope one sticks. So I've got two things that are like legit, like look like they're gonna happen, but I can't really talk about them right now because you never want to jinx it. So yes,
okay, that's fair.
There's two things in the works, maybe three, but other than that, just kind of waiting on this writer's strike and doing my thing, and hopefully something soon, and I think we're going to have a big lull in movies here because no one's working on any movies really right now. So let's get.
God bless the indie scene, eh?
Yeah, there used to be, it's funny. I talked to a bunch of my friends here. Like when we first started working in the film business in Los Angeles back in the late 1999, 2000. I'm dating myself right there.
I was less than 10 years of age.
Yeah, let's see. That was when I first moved to LA and started working out here. But back then, this place had it had like a variety of all these movies. And I kind of cut my teeth working on these independent films, like those very small, like got myself on the sets as a grip and, working on these small indie films. And I became a camera operator working on these indie films. And it's funny because you don't see them much anymore. Like those kind of movies kind of died out. You either have like a small budget tier movie or a massive budget. And they've all kind of like left California because everybody has a tax incentive. So we've been talking about this strike and going, it's kind of interesting because there might be a resurgence of the indie film thing. And I kind of hope we do. And I miss the fact that we could make these indie films because we had so much, like people would take chances on a cool idea. What I feel like nowadays is that we get so flooded with these commercial style movies because people are afraid to gamble on something different. And we see so much of that, and like, I love the fact, like me and my wife went to go see Barbarian and it was fun because it was so different. And we were like, this is so much fun because someone took a chance on making this movie and it's bonkers. And
Zach Cregger done a hell of a job with that one.
Awesome. And we went in not knowing anything about it. And I remember walking out going, I had the best time watching that. And I said, and finally, someone took a chance on doing totally different. And they did it. And that's the same thing I feel like with Talk to Me. It's a different thing. It's like, it's cool. Like people are starting to take chances now because I'm just tired of the same old, here's the story or here's the slasher and here's the people stuck in a house getting chased by a killer. And that's not me slamming Scream. I love Scream. I didn't like, that's not what I'm implying, but you see a lot of these.
I know what you mean. Yeah, some of the movies show you everything right at the start.
And it's like they took a Mad Libs book and they're just filling in the blanks of the story, but it's the same template over and over, and you're just like, let's get some original movies. Remember when Nightmare on Elm Street came out? That was an original concept. And look what that did. Look at all these other movies that people took chances on back then. That's what I want to see now. I want people to start making these original ideas now and not playing it so safe, because it's all about the money at that point. Let's see some original stuff. So fingers crossed.
What you need to do is check out my boy Jake Robinson. He's an indie director out there. I think it's Ohio he's from.
Okay.
Or somewhere like that. He has a movie out now about to come out called The Wendigo.
Okay, I haven't seen that, but
found footage movie. Obviously about the Wendigo, and it is off the fucking charts.
Brad,
like,
okay.
Off the charts good. And then he has another upcoming project that's hopefully going to be out maybe towards the end of the year, start of next year, that me and Ian, one of our other co-hosts, is actually doing a voiceover part for in My Brother's Keeper. So keep an eye out for that one.
Brad, I love that. Yeah. I welcome all the these different types of movies and people create people. I worked on that movie Malignant, James Wan, and some people are just like, what is this? I don't get it. But it was kind of awesome because they just took a chance on something totally different. And that's what I loved about that movie. I thought it was really fun. And James, he took on that and really something that was just it's not your typical thing. It's really a cool story. And, some people hated it. I loved it. Not just because I'm biased. I worked.
He might be one of the most talented horror directors ever. He's just
great.
He's just ridiculous.
He knows how to time for sure.
Yeah, but as I said, there's a resurgence in indie movies. I found there has been. Now I watch a stupid amount of indie movies. Now I'm lucky. Directors will send them to me to watch to do a review for and whatnot, and I'm like, I've watched a stupid amount of indie movies. There's a few good ones coming out. Late checkout when it comes out. And then you've got The Woodman and things like that. It's just some really good ones on the way out. And Black Mass, Devaney Pinn's directorial debut, Black Mass. You get a chance to check that one out.
Okay. yeah, no, I'm all for seeing any of these cool, you know, original ideas. Like I just miss that stuff, and like well, let's see that. Let's get dangerous again with movies. Let's like what people come up with, and let these producers take chances on like actually giving good budgets to different ideas. You know?
It's funny that you actually mentioned Barbarian because after I was sitting watching Barbarian because it came out on Disney Plus here, and I know, yeah,
That's
it's weird, isn't it? And
Disney
I
Barbarian.
was sitting watching it, right? Didn't know anything about it. I knew the premise was Bill Skarsgård and the girl are in a house. So I figured, right, movie's going to be pretty simple. They're going to use Skarsgård as the bad guy, or they could really swerve it and have her as the bad guy tormenting him.
Yeah.
But in the ad, the way you see her asleep and the door gets opened,
Yep.
I was like, okay, so Skarsgård's the bad guy,
Yeah.
right? So I'm sitting watching it. My missus is upstairs and she comes down, right? And it gets to the point, when they go down into the basement for the first time together, and he's showing her the room, or she's
Yep.
showing him the room.
Yeah.
And my missus is standing there and she's like, is this where he's going to kill her? It's obviously nearly over, is it? And I was like, no, it's only been on for like half an hour or something. And she was like, all right. So she sat down for a minute, and next thing you know, the creature came around the corner. I was like, what the fuck is this? And then you don't see that else for like ages because it cuts to Justin Long. I was like, okay. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Why? How?
Yeah, I didn't see that coming at all. Like I was like, I remember me and my wife were just like, whoa, and they killed him. I shouldn't spoiler alert anything, but like
it's old now. It's spoiled. We've done a review episode on it.
I remember killed him there, and we were just like, whoa, what? And then they cut to Justin Long. You're like, whoa, and you're taking a breath, like what just happened? And then it just goes from there. It was I thought it was so original and so cool.
I turned to my missus. I turned to Zoe there when I seen Justin Long in the car. I was like, he is not going to be okay.
Yeah, he's never okay in any.
She was like, what do you mean? I was like, he's not going to be okay in this movie. He is going to die grisly.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, jeepers creepers. She's like, now, to be fair to Justin Long, he survived from Drag Me to Hell.
Yes, he did.
Even though that cunt of a girlfriend tried to trick him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he usually gets a demise in movies. So you're like, oh yeah, that's it.
I like Justin Long. He's a good actor, though.
He's a good actor. I've worked with him on a TV pilot years ago, and he's just a nice guy too. It's fun. It's funny because like it's good when you see the good guys. So it's always fun to see him.
And what we'll do is just before we close it, then I'll fire you a couple of quick fire questions, and then we'll close it out for the evening.
Okay.
Give us your top 5 rewatchable horrors. Less Evil Dead.
Would you say no Evil Dead?
Yeah, no Evil Dead. Because you said Evil Dead 2 already, so.
I would say and people consider it horror sci-fi, but The Thing is still one of my favorite films.
Unbelievable. Absolutely
ever.
Unbelievable.
Like John's version of The Thing is still one of my favorites. I'd say Nightmare on Elm Street.
That is the best remake ever of any film.
It was awesome. Carpenter's Thing still to this day is so good. It's a big influence on me. Like I love Carpenter. That's the reason why we got him on Studio 666. That was the big why we brought him in, because it's like, we're gonna get him in here, and we were like, would you make us a theme song? He's like, yeah. So we were so stoked about that. Anyways,
you get the goat in.
And it was just like, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, how am I supposed to direct the guy when I was a kid that was my favorite director growing up? Like all those movies. When I was in kindergarten, I thought I was Snake Plissken. It was so stupid. Anyways,
did you wear an eye patch?
Didn't wear an eye patch, no. But I was like, I always had the theme song, and I'd walk around the playground, and I thought I was cool, but I wasn't cool. And Snake Plissken's still the coolest. So. Yeah, The Thing is still my favorite. Nightmare on Elm Street is, like I said, we talked about that. Love Nightmare on Elm Street. I love The Blob. The remake of The Blob is like another one of my favorite movies. It's so cool. And actually, for when they made that, the effects were so good. back then. I
Our,
still like,
our,
I could
our
watch that.
very first guest on this show was the special effects for it in Nick Benson.
Yeah, it was great. Well, Tony Gardner, who did a lot of the effects on Studio 6, did the Blob, and so
Yeah.
when our taker starts forming, that's the same material and the same color. If a little Easter egg that they used for the Blob, that's what we used, and that's because knew that I was a big fan of the Blob. So
Yeah,
we, yeah,
Nick, who worked
we.
on that was our first guest.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's I love that movie. That's three. So, geez, like there's so many good horror films. I'm trying to think of like I don't want to mess up on this. These questions always stress me out. I love the
Twilight.
Lost Boys. I'm a huge fan of the Lost Boys. And I don't.
They're all actually going to the For the Love of Horror. The whole 5 of them are guests at For the Love of Horror this year.
Oh, really? That's awesome. That's
Kiefer included.
Oh, I've gone up to Santa Cruz and actually walked around where they shot all the stuff, even where Grandpa's house is. Like, it's funny because if you go to Santa Cruz, you have to actually hike into the woods because Grandpa's house is this building and it's falling apart. You can go to Santa Cruz and walk to the house where Grandpa's house was, where they shot that, and it's kind of a bummer because the whole place is like falling in. But I loved the Lost Boys growing up. That's 4, right?
Yep.
Okay? Oh, what do I don't want to hose this. Jeez, that's good. It's oof. And the thing is, like, I could say like Halloween 1 or whatever. I do love those movies. I'm trying to think of something I could really, really rewatch over and over again. But I guess because of John Carpenter, I'll say Halloween 1. Yeah,
But as good as they come, really, isn't it?
He's an inspiration. But I'm a huge fan of all those early.
For years, I always maintained Craven was the best of the two. I don't think I was right. Craven was the best character creator. Carpenter was the best filmmaker by a mile.
Carpenter, he was the best, and look, I love the Scream movies. I think they're really awesome. Like, I thought they were really good times. Scream 1 to me is still a fun film. Oh, it's such a good time.
Oh, it's great, isn't
it?
Yeah. Right. Michael or Jason?
Oh, Michael for me. I have a relation with Michael, so I'm gonna go Michael.
Grand. And then I'll give you the question that we. Go ahead.
So Jason Voorhees definitely has more inventive and funnier kills. I'm more scared of.
And then I'll give you the question that we asked so many guests for so long because it became a running battle between me and Carl. Have you seen Dog Soldiers?
Oh, from Neil Marshall's Dog Soldiers?
Yeah.
I have not seen that yet, and I've been always meaning to watch that, and I haven't. I always go, I should watch that movie, and I've never watched it.
It's just genius. So I can't ask you the question then. I was going to ask you which one's better, that or American Werewolf?
Oh, let's see. Yeah. I love American Werewolf in London, but I haven't seen Dog Soldiers, and I should.
Carl is an American Werewolf, and I be Dog Soldiers.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Well, we got to sit down with Neil Marshall as well at one stage, and it was just awesome.
He's a good
man's just a fucking genius. He's a genius.
Love The Descent.
Oh, just off the charts good.
Really great. Because yesterday I was telling my wife that the cinematographer who shot that, Sam McCurdy, just texted me yesterday. Was like, "Hey, I'm in town. Let's get lunch." And I'm like, "Hey,
let's do that." But BJ, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and we'd love to have you back at some stage when the lads are here.
Yeah, let's do it. Talk music. That's a whole nother realm right there. You know,
I'll just sit here and be like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do the Steve-O on it and be like,
yeah, there it is. Exactly. Yeah, no. If hopefully soon I got something in the works, we can talk about that again too. Fingers crossed, but we know how this business is. It is what it is, and let's hope that these strikes are over soon. I need and so does everyone else.
That man needs to work. I need new movies to watch because they're eventually going to stop coming out, and that's not good.
Oh
Uh,
no, you got to get some going. Nothing's happening.
But for the evening, folks, I'll finish this the way I finish absolutely every single Friday night. In the words of the great George A. Romero, ladies and gentlemen, stay scared.